Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the new year. And with the new year comes new goals. So we are having our newest Renegade Consortium podcast. And at this point in the year, so in the last podcast, we talked about setting goals. And at this point during the year, we should be starting to execute on some of those goals. And today we're going to be talking about one type of goal in particular, and that's finding leads. So what are the different ways that we can find leads? Now, this is a pretty broad topic because there's all sorts of different ways that we can find leads and tap into. So we are going to break this episode into two different parts. One, we'll be talking about free or low cost leads that we can find and use for our business that won't take up a lot of your marketing budget. But it is going to take some time and effort on your part. So that's the trade-off that we're going to be talking about. And then in part two, we're going to be talking about some of those paid leads, some of those ways that we can use our marketing budget to get those leads into our business and start to execute on those goals. Now, the biggest question that comes along with any of these different things that we're going to talk about today is what works? What is going to be the biggest bang for your buck? What is going to be the one thing that helps you and your business the most? So that's what we're going to be talking about today on the latest episode of the Renegade Consortium. So we have our cast here today. Stephen Meadows, Andrew Becker, and Michael Ehrlich. And of course, my name's Tom Shively. So let's go ahead and jump in. So we're going to start by talking about some of those free to low cost leads. So let me just throw this out to you guys. What do you guys think is the best way to find leads?
Sign twirling, I think that's very effective. You stand in the corner and you
the sign twirling is the best. Absolutely.
Okay, I was just talking to one of my agents today, and to tag on what you said in the intro, it is a trade-off, time versus money. You're either going to pay for it or you're going to put in the sweat equity, to use a real estate term, to create the business yourself. I was talking to one of my agents, and she's talking about how she doesn't really have a good farm, neighborhood that she can farm. And, everybody knows agents. I mentioned that on a call earlier in the week where I said, get over it. Everybody knows an agent. Don't worry about stepping on toes. It's fine. And I gave her a very simple idea. I said, why don't you just pick a neighborhood or go through your church directory? She was telling me there's like 3 realtors in my church. And why don't you mail them all an equity report on their house? You could use RPR, you could run a CMA, you can do all these things and just do a cover letter, send it, a couple of pages with some, basic information to whet their appetite. I said, what's that going to cost you? $1.50 between envelopes and stamps and a little bit of your time. Guess what? You sit in front of the TV at night and you address envelopes as you're sitting there watching TV. That's about the cheapest thing that you could probably do from not being free, but it's not taking that much of your time either. Now it's probably a slower, build, but I was giving her all those kinds of ideas where it's like, put a little effort into it, but it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So I'm old school. I think email and I think direct mail still works. I know Andrew has a very sophisticated direct mail approach, but I mean, just mailing stuff to people. And I'm a big proponent, as I've said before, of hand addressing envelopes. If that's the only thing you do to personalize it, hand address the address. I don't even care about the return address, but write it out and people are more likely to open it. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, when you're Andrew and you're the technologist that built the platform that does a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, it's a little bit more complicated. So yeah, Andrew, walk us through a little bit about how I guess just what are ways that you like to ingest leads and start to work on those?
Yeah, I'll start with, since this is the free portion, right? For the newbies or the people that are really struggling, always start with the people so friends, family, coworkers, if you're kind of doing a hybrid part-time real estate full-time job type of thing. And literally, kind of like Stephen just said, you handwrite notes, handwrite out a text and be like, hey Tom, I'm in real estate now, I would love to earn your business. Are you thinking about moving or buying anytime soon, or do you know one person that you could refer me to? That is super cost effective, almost no cost at all. So I would probably start there. Just start to put together a spreadsheet of people I know write them down. You have their phone numbers, you have the email, compile that list and do that. The next step up, in my opinion, is if you don't have your own listings, right? So you can host these opens, and there will be a little bit of cost unless you go with absolutely nothing like food or water in there. I don't recommend that, but you want to spend a little bit to get people in and have a good time. And we can dive a little bit deeper into this if you guys want, but hosting open houses on Saturdays twice, on Sundays twice, but more importantly, you guys know I talk about this all the time, have a playbook around that open house and make, you want the most bang for your buck. You don't want to just shoot from the hip and waste your time. You want to have a system and a process for meeting people, getting their information, and then that gets added to your list of people you know. And if you do that, I was on Facebook in one of the groups the other day, and I saw someone post, I did it. I held an open house for the last 150 weeks. That was her way of getting leads and getting into the business. It's hard. And like Steven had mentioned, there's either you pay for them, but if you can't afford to pay for them, it's a sweat equity, which she was willing to do. And I would imagine if she did it right, her list of potential buyers or clients or prospects is pretty big if she did it for 150 weeks straight.
150, that's almost 3 years in a row. So she had an open house every weekend for 3 years.
Maybe even more. I don't know. I didn't ask her, but it was like, that was her big goal. And that's what she decided to do. And she did it.
That's dedication right there. Okay. I like the idea of open houses and, getting to go out and meet people into the real world. And there was actually something you said, Steven, that I'm a big fan of, and I think is such a helpful way to market yourself. And that's the CMA. That's creating a CMA, because not only it doesn't have to focus around an individual listing. It's something where you can just say, okay, let me take all of the listings in this particular area. Let's just include them all so that people can see what's on the market. And then you can include information about that particular area. So now they get more of a global view of what's going on in the market. You post that on social, you send that out to people that you know that are looking, and you say, hey, here's what's going on. It's a personalized report from me. Go ahead and take a look. And that's such a cool way to get people to engage with that information. Michael, what do you think is like a really solid way for people to interact with those leads?
I thought there was a ghost for a second. I saw your dog.
So my dog is, of course, she's gonna walk in mid-podcast.
I didn't even see the dog. I was just like, oh. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's everything that Steven and Andrew said, but I mean, also when it comes to kind of curating, I'm big on list building. So sharing content, like I'll give you an example on Instagram, is gamifying it, right? Which house do you like the best, or which piece of furniture, or whatever. It's really just, because it's immersive. So if you put things on your stories about real estate, like people are going to start remembering, but then it's also going to show the people that you need to include in your SOI, because they're continuing to view your stuff. So you can reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Thanks so much for interacting with and engaging with my content, and just starting off that way, and not necessarily, saying, are you going to sell your house? But like, it's really just leading with appreciation, and they're going to remember that you're a real estate agent. So big time content on stories, because you can see who's viewed them, you can see who's actually engaged with them, and then just building a list from there. That's
I love that. That's great. Yeah. And so all of those are great ways to find leads. So let's go into a few of these different ways that we can talk about leads. And the first one that I want to talk about is social. So everybody here seems to be a guru at social. And in some respect, all of you have been posting a bunch on different channels, different mediums. So let's talk a little bit about how you can use that, and maybe it doesn't generate leads, but it starts to plant the seed, right? We're starting with that brand awareness where people are understanding that you are the agent. because I love the personalized things, the handwritten notes, but how do people consume information now? And there's so many different people that get information about what people are up to and what people are doing and how they're working their business from social media. So let's talk a little bit about how we can start to lean into that tool, because it is free. It does take some time, but how can we use that to start to generate business? So let's start with Steven. You're somebody that posts a lot. So how can real estate agents lean into their social media channels to generate leads?
The big thing that I've always pushed is being a resource. I feel like agents have kind of forgotten how to just add value. It's all about making the sale instead of what can I do to help you or help people you know. It's, can I have your listing? Can I show you a house? And so on social, I think it's being that resource. If you see someone that's asking a question or having a struggle with something, just offer advice or offer, hey, maybe you should try such and such, or making sure your content is speaking to the type of audience that you are trying to attract. So if I'm trying to up my game and enter the luxury market, I probably shouldn't post a bunch of first-time homebuyer content. That's not the audience I'm shooting for. That has no value to the type of buyer or seller I'm trying to attract. What kind of stuff can I bring to the table that would attract an affluent individual? And they might not be on social as much, or they may be on a different platform. So you may have to switch. Okay, this type of buyer is more likely on LinkedIn because they're more professional or something like that. So you tailor your content for the platform and for the audience. But at the end of the day, people want to do business with people like them. So when you can share a little bit about your life, I don't share a ton about my personal life on social, but I do enough to where people can read my personality, and you can tell if I'm the type of person you'd want to hang out with or not. Their sense of humor, I don't know. Don't work with me then. That's fine. I won't even go down the rabbit hole of preaching about religion and politics. Just don't do it. Don't talk about religion and politics, and I think you'll be fine. Don't alienate people unnecessarily, but always ask yourself the question is, if I'm posting something, is it true? Is it useful? And who cares? And I don't mean like that as a mean thing. It's who cares, and who is my audience? Like, who is this directed toward? And if I was that person, would this resonate with me? If you can't answer those three questions, it's probably not a good piece of content to post. That's,
well, I would hang out with you, Steven. I would.
I would hang out with you too.
What? And I do have a question for you based off of the first thing that you said, which was when an agent starts to get this, they're like, give me your transaction, give me that lead. And my question is, don't you, in our industry, it's so much more beneficial to foster that relationship where you're getting a client for life versus this transaction right now. Now, we know that is how we make money, is by closing transactions. But when we're coaching somebody on how to ingest that lead, on how to like start to build that relationship, it's obviously not going to happen on social media. But when somebody gets to talking to somebody, how do you recommend that they start that relationship and not go right for the transaction?
I always try to find the problem I can solve for them. I wrote about this in my first book about networking. Everybody's probably familiar with the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, where he's always be closing. I say ABC. Absolutely. Always build channels. I call them channels of business. So it's a B2B term, as far as like when I was in home warranty sales, an agent was a channel of business because they would connect me with multiple purchasers throughout the year. You can do the same thing with a client. So Billy Bob may, live in a single wide trailer and have a 420 credit score or whatever, and will never buy a house in his life. But you don't know, he might have a boss that's a real estate investor or whatever. And if you help Billy Bob with some problem he's having, he might introduce you to his boss. You don't know. So if you can solve somebody's problem, then it goes a long way. I would get business when I sold home warranties without selling them. I would get business from an agent. They would refer other agents to me, even though they never bought a warranty from me, because they called me up. I gave them the advice. I'm like, my product is probably not what you need. I would call this other company. That's the closest thing they have. And they're like, wow, that was awesome. And other agents would call me and say, hey, I hear you're really helpful with the home warranty stuff. So don't go for the jugular. Like, don't figure out how am I going to get Mike's listing. I got to figure this out. No, how am I going to help Mike so that he can introduce me to other people that may need me today instead of 6 years from now when Mike finally gets around to selling a house.
That's such an important lesson, I think, in real estate.
I think there would be a question that the audience, I know I would have it, and this is for Steven. As far as like content goes, quality over quantity. There's so many tools out there that do auto posting of like 5 ways to stage your home for a spring sale. And I think we always talk about like the quinoa recipe, that's the quinoa stuff, pepper recipe that sucks. What do you think as far as like the type of content that's being shared? What's annoying? Should it be quality content or should it just be like constant flood?
No, I think there does need to be some quality, but there also has to be some consistency in your posting as well. Like I wouldn't sacrifice consistency for quality. So if like I can only find one thing a month to post, find something else. Like even if it's filler content, it's okay. Like not all my content is spot on, nails at home. It's like, this one's okay. This is really good. But it goes back to those 3 questions, but the most important one is who cares? So if I'm looking at a quinoa recipe, does this resonate with anybody? Well, maybe how I position it or the caption that I give it can help position it, or the example I used to use is, let's say you're trying to be a lake expert. I'm trying to sell houses on the lake. So maybe your posts need to be stuff about like boat maintenance and, how to maintain your seawall and things like that. Like, is this going to resonate with the people that you're trying to do business with? Is it solving a problem they might have? That's really the question is, maybe there's that one-off person that needed an appetizer for a dinner party and the quinoa peppers are the perfect thing. I don't know. I happen to like quinoa, but, and I happen to like posting recipes, but I know that doesn't necessarily get me real estate business.
It looks and tastes like birdseed, Steven. All right. Andrew, can you talk to us a little bit about social channels? So like when an agent is trying to find their audience and which channel am I posting on? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Which is going to get me the most interaction? How would you suggest agents or marketing in general, how do you get in front of your audience?
Right. They're a great question. I'll say in retail, residential real estate, if you're an agent, whether you like the platform or not, I personally think you should be on all of them because you don't know who's hanging out on Instagram versus Facebook versus TikTok versus LinkedIn, right? There are different personalities on each, but not everyone is going to be on all. So you have to spread your wings wide, right? I'll also mirror what Steven just said about consistency part. You don't want to post. This is something that we actually struggled with early on. We would post, and then it would look like we went out of business, and then we would post. So I think consistently posting is very, very important. One thing that I will say though is we didn't really use and don't really use social media for lead gen per se. We use it more for credibility. So everyone goes online and everyone knows like, oh, I see a Tom Shively real estate sign in someone's yard. Really fancy, $10 million house. Who is this guy? You're not looking him up in the yellow pages anymore. What are you doing? You're Googling him. And if you didn't have social media, and some agents don't that reach out to me, I think it's a little weird just because everything is starting to move online. So at the very, very least, do that. And I think that's going to help because when people Google your name and they see, number one, they find you. I also think it's weird when real estate agents don't really have websites either. And there's like no way to find their contact information, but that's another story. Yeah. But be available and be reachable and be on all of them. I think that's going to be a tremendous help because if they Google me, they're Googling the other person. And if I'm posting consistently, and there's ways to get consistent posts as well, but they're going to be like, wow, this guy's actually in the business and he's actually doing stuff. And one thing about finding consistent things to do, kind of like hosting other people's open houses, and to Michael's, gamification thing, when you're hosting open houses and there's no one there, start shooting content. Take a picture of the refrigerator and be like, who likes this orange fridge? Yes or no? And that's where you can get free content while you're hosting a free open house to get free leads. So it all kind of circles back, and that's how you can snowball over time.
I like that. And we've building that credibility, I think, is huge. And especially if, when we're talking to potential clients, if they're going, I don't know who you are, nor have I seen anything out there is that level of, you might be the best agent in the world. I mean, if you're new or if you just don't have content, but if somebody doesn't know who you are, they're probably not going to give you their business. So I love that we've addressed that. Just getting out there and letting people know that you're in the business, that you are good at this, shooting that content. If you're taking selfies next to the orange fridge, that's going to be a good way to let people know that you are the agent that you're selling yourself to be. Now, we've talked a little bit about open houses and sphere marketing, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about sphere marketing in a minute. But I see, Andrew, you put in door knocking. Let's talk about door knocking a little bit.
Yeah, so I would use door knocking sparingly, number one. I would use door knocking when I have something to tell the person who answers the door that's going to be of a benefit, i.e. for you to stop by, or do you know anyone that would like to live in your neighborhood? Some of your friends that might be waiting for a house to come on around the corner from you. So you have to have a purpose. I know there are agents out there that do door knocking just, hey, I'm introducing myself. For me personally, and I've been there and I didn't do it very long, that had diminishing returns, if no returns at all. So having a purpose to door knock with a real reason why you're door knocking, excluding I'm just introducing myself, is where I would kind of focus my time and my energy.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that. So we, as a company, have invested heavily in encouraging our agents to hold open houses, whether it's their listings or whether it's, somebody else's listing. And one of the things that we include in the marketing materials is what we call a door knocking packet. And it's like a little neighborhood report about, the prices in the area or whatever. And so we give them like 10 copies and we're like, go and walk around the neighborhood before the open house, introduce, hey, we're having an open house, just wanted to, invite you, or, just want to let you know you might be seeing some cars, extra traffic. I apologize if there's any inconvenience, but I also wanted to drop off some information about the neighborhood. Thought you might find it interesting, whatever. That's a great way to get to, talk to the neighbors a little bit, and giving them information about the value of their home is way more valuable to them than, hi, my name is Steven and I sell real estate. I don't care. Get off my porch. No, fun. But I was talking to an agent of ours a couple months ago. She was relatively new to the business, and she's like, I'm going to create this trifold brochure, and it's going to be about me, and I'm like, okay, cool. What's the purpose of this? And she's like, oh, I'm gonna take it and give it all to all my neighbors. I'm like, okay. So that sounds like a lot of work to make it. You're gonna have to design it and print it and all that. Do your neighbors care about you personally, or would it be more interesting to them to give them like a neighborhood report or a CMA or something like that? And she was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, and then you don't have to design it. You can literally just use this tool, push this button, and here you go. I mean, there's all these tools out there. There's RPR reports and all these other things. We have proprietary stuff people can use. But give them something that they will actually care about. I don't care about you. I'm not being mean. I know who you are. I don't know why you're at my front door on a Sunday afternoon. But oh, that's how much my house might be worth. Now you have my attention. So I'm 100% sparingly door knock with a purpose. I love that.
Yeah. And there's, to your point, people don't care about salespeople, and specifically, I mean, there are signs on everyone's houses that says no solicitors. So it's like, they know that that's the case. And so, yeah, using that sparingly, I think, is going to be helpful, but also providing that information. I love that, because you're not actually selling. You're not going, hey, do you want this vacuum, like it was in, however long ago, but you're able to say, hey, this is information about your house. It's just publicly available information, but I wanted to give this to you. So I really like the idea that you're able to provide value while you're talking about this thing, while you're going up and, knocking on their door. Okay, this next one, I don't know who put this on the list, but it does sound excessively technical, which is Google Location Services ads. So let's talk a little bit about.
No, that was me.
Google Location Services.
I know Michael knows a lot about it, but it's a low cost, right? I mean, if you Google, I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. So if you go to Google, type in Alexandria, Virginia realtor, there's this new like Google sponsored, it's not new, but it's Google sponsored or screened.
Oh, local,
okay.
local service ads. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just a picture and it's like Google verified. You fill out a profile. The more, profile fill out, the better, just for that credibility. So, I mean, Michael, maybe you know a little bit more about the cost than I do. I think it's relatively low cost, but it's just something, again, when they Google your business or your team or you as an agent, you want something to pop up. And if you do that, you want it to be filled in with good content so there's not like missing information and they can contact you.
I actually had an agent that had to turn it off because she was getting too much business from it. I mean, it works in some markets very, very effectively. And I think she was spending 75 to 100 bucks a month, and it was nothing.
Okay, that's something we need to invest in. I like that. But that is the question that we asked in the beginning. What works? And it's not going to be the same thing in every market. And so that's why today we're trying to explore all of these different options, because one thing might work for you. One thing might work for the agent next door. But whatever works for you, whatever helps your business is what's going to be helpful. So those Google location services, I'm going to have to do some research now that Andrew said it. So, okay. So this is something that I've heard a lot about, and I really want to explore the idea of community events or sponsorships or just hosting events. How do you engage those people in your area? And one of the things that I've heard that is a really good idea for agents is to host events for your vendor network too, because they might send you referrals. They might send you, you're going to be sending them business throughout the course of the year. If it's the painters, the landscapers, the handymen that are in the neighborhood, they're the ones that you can get business from, but you're also going to help, give them business because you trust their expertise. So let's talk a little bit about those community events. Let's start with Michael. We haven't heard from you a ton today about sponsoring community events and how getting not just your client base, but anybody else into your events so that you can start to grow your business.
With regards to client events, it's about, and Stephen and Andrew can talk to this much more than I can, because I'm more in the digital world than I am like in the real world. Stuck in the box. But yeah, no, with regards to events, it's always like that's where transactions happen. It's like building the rapport on the ground, but also doing something that you and your sphere enjoy doing, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be like a picnic in the park, or you can do a bar crawl. You can do, you gotta be safe. You can do a bar crawl. You can do, a thing at Chili's. It's pretty much up to you, but I think it's focusing on something that everybody's going to enjoy. And really that's when with regards to buying and selling homes, I think those conversations are going to be had in person and not necessarily in the digital. It's just starting it in the digital world.
So people make fun of this, and I don't care, because I still think it's a great idea. And like I've said, I'm old school. It's the apple pie giveaway thing for your sphere of influence. 4th of July, or pick a random Flag Day. I don't care. Come by my office on Saturday from 12 to 2. Pick up an apple pie. Those cost like $10, maybe $8. I don't know how much they are. Like Costco, and they're gigantic pies. That has some cost. But there's a lot of things, like Mike said, you can hold these events. I used to host realtor happy hours when I was working for American Home Shield, but I wasn't allowed to buy alcohol. And so I would just put it out there, hey guys, I'm going to be at O'Charlie's from this time to this time. And it was during their happy hour thing. I'll buy a bunch of apps. You're on your own for drinks. And I would get like 10, 12, 15 realtors every time I would do one. They still talk about it in that town. They're like, oh, I remember Steven's, happy hours, because nobody does them anymore. But it was just, we'd sit around and just shoot the breeze, like whatever. And I would get business from it. I have a manager that sponsors a baseball team. That's a local thing. And then he will actually go out, and I think he bought like shoes for the entire team or something. Went to Walmart or wherever it was, bought all the shoes, took a big old picture of this giant pile of shoe boxes and stuff. And he got a lot of mileage out of that. But that lets people know that you are part of the community. yes, there is some cost involved in that, but there doesn't have to be huge sponsorship costs. Like sometimes it's just chipping in and helping out with band boosters or whatever. Volunteer work is a great way of getting involved, rolling up your sleeves, maybe wear your name tag or wear a shirt that, maybe you're working at a Habitat. Well, Habitat's kind of a real estate thing, but you're volunteering at, I don't know, some kind of a place, and you have your shirt on, and the other volunteers are seeing that, oh wow, maybe Andrew's an okay guy. He seemed, I wasn't sure at first, but now that he's volunteering, I see he's got a good heart. There's a lot that you can do to let people know you're part of the community, but I'm a big fan of just getting people together.
And a low cost way of like inviting people, and I haven't used it in this way yet, but I use Cameo to hire low cost. Like I had who's the guy that sings She Bangs, whatever his
William
name.
Hung.
Yeah, so I got him for $35 to sing happy birthday to one of my friends. I got a closing gift. Her name is Van Ann, and she's a Australian pianist, and she sang Home Sweet Home for my buyers that just bought a home, right? So like you can hire these people, you tell them what to say for $50 or whatever, and people are they're gonna pay attention to it because they know that person, right? And they're gonna listen to their message, and it's gonna be even better when it's personalized, saying, "Hey, I know you're in Staunton, Virginia.
One of these days you're going to pronounce it correctly."
But like it's a fun way of getting people together. They know who these people are, and I think it's the engagement's going to be higher. So that's just something that might work.
When you said you're on Cameo, I thought you meant that you were on Cameo, as in you're like, I'll sing your friend's happy birthday.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
I want to be Cameo famous.
That would be great. Yeah. Hire Steven. Hi, I heard you're in Stanton, North Carolina. Happy birthday.
We got the city correct. Maybe someday we'll get the state right. Stanton, Virginia, everybody.
There could be a Stanton in North Carolina.
There might. I know there's a Stanton. It's spelled differently. There's a Stanton, Pennsylvania.
Okay. I just threw out. I made it up as we go. Okay, so I want to bookend this session with one of the most effective ways to market and get leads, and that's sphere marketing. And we can kind of dovetail that into email marketing in your CRM. So, Stephen, talk to us a little bit about sphere marketing and using that sphere of influence to not only get that expertise out there, like we were talking about with social, is getting, being that expert, but also getting ingesting new leads.
Yeah. So the big thing is know, like, and trust. That's kind of the cornerstone of your sphere. They know, like, and trust you. They're already halfway there. I took a class many, many years ago. It was a CRS class, and the instructor actually was talking about how he doesn't do any marketing. Like he has slashed his marketing budget to basically nothing as far as like print and all that, advertising. This is before social was really big, so he's probably changed by now. But he said, I focus almost all of my marketing dollars on my sphere of influence, and not just anybody that I know, but people who have sent me business. It's my A group, and they know they're in my A group, and they get special things from me all year. And if they don't send me business, they don't get stuff. And they call me and they're like, hey, I didn't get the thing. He's like, I didn't get a referral from you last year. That's for my A group. And it might sound harsh to some people, but like he said, people were like vying. They're digging through their, I'll find somebody for you, because they want that coveted A group, because he would do these things. And he's like, what I spend on these people is a fraction of what I would spend in print marketing or anything like that. And he said, if you just spend your money on your sphere, you're golden. And I'm like, that's a great idea. In fact, I think he's the one that's, first, gave me the apple pie idea. It was like every year, on this day, I have a thing where they come and get an apple pie, or you could do turkeys around Thanksgiving, whatever, but so, people, as I said, people make fun of the apple pie thing though it's so, passe or whatever, but hey, $10 gets me in front of somebody that knows and likes and trusts me, and I get 5 minutes to talk to them. I think it's $10 well spent, so those people should be easy pickings, but it's not that they're going to necessarily transact with you. It's that they're going to connect you with other people that may be able to transact with you, because you can only pump that well so much, and then you've sold everybody a house. And then when it comes to, ingesting those new leads from your sphere, let's say, hey, my aunt is thinking about selling her condo. Maybe you should talk to her. Great. You better do a good job. And I tell people the same thing when I give a referral out, like, don't screw this up. Like, I'm putting my reputation on the line to refer this person or refer you to this person. And so when somebody in your sphere does that, you need to let them know, like, I will make sure this is taken care of. Like, I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to give them a high level of service, and you better deliver, because if you don't, they're not going to send you any more business. So it's not a gimme. And so you have to really, I would treat those people like gold, more than I would an internet lead or something like that. Like, I'm doing everything I can. Oh, Sally, told me to take good care of you, and that's what I'm here for. And da da da. Same thing with a vendor referral. Just like I tell my lawn guy, if I send somebody to you, don't screw their lawn up, because that looks bad on me. If you send me a client, I'm not going to screw it up because I don't want to make you look bad. So it's a quid pro quo thing to some extent. And just letting them know the expectation, I'm going to take care of this, and it will be a great experience.
I like that. And, the know, like, and trust you, that's what's been rattling around the industry for as long as there's been real estate. And I like that because with what's going on in the media and all of the, the craziness that's happening with commissions and stuff like that, the message that's out there is that people don't trust real estate. And I couldn't disagree more. People that use their agent, those are people that they know, those are people that they trust. So I like the idea that when you're marketing to people, when you're talking to people, it's people that that have known you your whole life, right? So if you are selling your aunt a house, it's not that they're going, you're an agent, I don't trust you. That's not how that works. Agents are people that you know. So being able to lean into that relationship, I think, is going to be huge. Andrew, tell me if I'm wrong here.
You're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Steven, I think you're spot on with that. One advanced kind of social media thing that we did for a little bit, but I know a lot of people really kind of go crazy with, is not only getting referrals and then doing an excellent job. I think that's like 101 there, but across all these platforms, you're building your sphere and you're getting friends and connections, right? So we actually had someone monitor this. And if someone would have a baby, or if someone, bought a car, or if someone said, hey, on LinkedIn, I just got a new job at whatever company, we would send them stuff and be like, hey, congratulations. Here's like a Babies R Us. I don't even know if that's a store anymore, but here's a gift card with a little handwritten note, that kind of thing. And then they would post it. And then that kind of just snowballs too. So taking what Steven had just kind of discussed of building that out and then going the extra mile too, that's also going to set them apart. And then those people are going to be like, wow, I can't believe Steven just, he sent me an air freshener for my brand new car. This is cool. Like, what real estate agent does that? Oh, Steven did. I'm going to put him top of mind next time. So just little things like that won't really cost anything, but like a stamp and, a few bucks here and there, that can pay dividends too over time. And then you just do that consistently again, and, snowballs.
I'd love to have an air freshener with Steven's face on it.
I'll send you one. I have a box full of them. He keeps sending them to me for some reason.
Oh, okay. I think you should do golf balls with your face on it. That way people can just
that would be cool too.
Yeah, that's just what you need, is to send it through somebody's window and have your face on the golf ball.
Yeah.
With your phone number and email. Let's be real here. You got to put your contact info on that.
That's
if you're gonna a free bit of advice, if you're gonna drive around town with a magnet on your car with your contact information, don't cut people off in traffic. Just saying.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is the end of episode 1 in this series here. We're talking about leads. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about paid leads and ways that we can start to lean into that marketing budget that we've set aside for the year and get leads that way. So stay tuned for the next episode.